Trekking with a tent is the ultimate freedom, but it's also your #1 safety and security out on the trails. In this video, we are going to give you some tips and show how to pitch the tent.
So, as you said, your sweet home away from home. When pitching your tent, you should always start with looking for a camp spot. You don't make a camp spot, you find a camp spot. So you try to find as even ground as possible and as durable as possible. In this case, we are training on this lawn, which is super flat. We start with working low on your knees and making sure that we have all the parts that we need. The poles and the ground stakes and the tent itself.
Harald, why do you think it's so important to practice pitching your tent before you head out on the trails?
Practice makes perfect, and you don't want to run into unnecessary problems when you're out trekking. So when buying or renting a tent, it's best thing to do is to pitch it like in the backyard or with friends to make sure that you understand how it works.
I also think it's a good tip to try to pitch it in different weather conditions.
Yes, that's really good.
Because when the weather is really bad, you really need it to be your safety shelter.
Yeah.
So being able to pitch the tent within 5 minutes or so,
That's good.
then you know it's only 5 minutes away from actually that shelter.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just don't put down our bags, we put them in our pockets so they don't blow away or the wind. So we start with that from the very beginning, so we learn that.
Harald, why do you choose this type of tent for this occasion, or when do you choose what type of tent?
So dome tent is really handy when you want some more extra space. It's very durable when it comes to wind from all different directions and from above. So now we have put together the poles, and now we'll stretch out the tent itself. And we make sure that all the guy lines and all the lines that stretch out the tent doesn't tangle.
Perfect.
Let's start putting in all the tent poles before we pitch it. And Sofia, this is also a good time to point out that we still are working very low to the ground.
Yes.
In case we have some wind, it's so much easier to work down low.
Yeah.
So now when we have all the tent poles in the sleeves, we can start to tightening it and pitch the tent. At this point, it might be easier for us to pitch it, so we get the tension we need.
Perfect. So it's time to anchor the guy lines. And for myself, I always make sure to count the number of pegs that I put in the ground, so I know in the morning how many pegs I should look for.
That's smart. That's smart. And me personally always try to make sure that the guy lines is as long as possible. I also follow the poles, like their direction. So in this case, I align it with a pole and put it out and just put it in the ground.
And another good thing, if you make the guy line as long as possible, you don't have to put it in the ground super tight. So you can just anchor it in the ground and then you can adjust it. So Harald, when you finish up with the guy lines,
Yeah.
I can show a little bit on the inside. So here you can really see it's double. We have an outer tent and an inner tent, and they are well separated. Air between. You can also remove the inner tent from the outer tent if needed. And when could that be a good idea to do?
So this is what we call Nordic pitching, when the inner tent is connected to the outer tent, and it's when you raise the tent, they both rise at the same time.
Yes.
And as an answer to your question, I would say that if it's pouring rain outside and you're about to break camp, and you don't really feel like taking down this super wet tent altogether to make the inner tent super wet, I would remove the inner tent from the outer tent and pack the bag and the tent inside this protected area, for an example.
Yeah, and then maybe have the fly sheet separated.
Yes,
Yes.
good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Now when we have pitched the tent, I would recommend that we open all the ventilations on it so the air can flow through. So we minimize the risk of moisture and condensation inside the tent. Nice.
Perfect. So what do you think is a reasonable time to pitch a tent?
Well, if you can do it less than 5 minutes or around 5 minutes, that is a really good benchmark.
So you know it's only 5 minutes away from shelter.
Yes.
Super.
Because as you said, we can say it a million times, but this is your shelter away from home, and it should be taken serious that this is where you hide from bad weather, or if you need to rest for a longer period of time, this is where you're going to do it. So